Welcome to the Cool Instruments for Hep Cats podcast and the world of creating musical sounds, where every note has a story. In this podcast, we delve into the fascinating realm of unusual and intriguing musical instruments. From the depths of history to the cutting edge of innovation, we'll explore the instruments that have, or will, push the boundaries of what we consider music. Join us on a journey of discovery as we uncover the secrets of the world's most fascinating instruments, the people who play them, and the music they create. Now here is your host, Dr. Donald Rickert.
So this is my copy of the Wagner, which is well, sorry, I was trying to put fret, but clearly this is not an neck for fret. This was just an experiment. Clearly, this was made only on you say making on thin air, which means with no mold.
Build in the air.
Build in the air.
With no mold, right. I want to hear about that.
Exactly. Because normally...
Yeah.
Let me show you. Get rid of this. Normally we have an internal mold. We attach blocks for the corners and then to the blocks. Well, a Baroque instrument will have the neck just glued on the rib and nailed from inside, while a modern instrument will have a sort of, how do you call it? In Italian is incastro, and it will be put inside here. And then
the word is mortise.
Will have a sort of, you complete while the Wagner was built first the back, this is the back of my next instrument, then the neck, and the neck glued on the back. The neck has a different shape. The block is built into the neck, the neck and the block are inbuilt. I show you a picture that I will not send to you later, because I will not remember. In this way, so that when you put on the back the neck, you will have the ribs, then you glue the ribs on the back and they will go into the neck. So you will glue the ribs on the back without any blocks for the corners, and you will keep them together just like clamping them from outside. Which was a pretty fun thing to do during the lockdown. So this was my lockdown project, and yes, it was really much fun. And also the instrument that came out, it's interesting because it doesn't seem it has a big sound from when you are close to it, but it has a wide projection. So in a church, it really jumps to the end of the church. It was an interesting project.
Now, why would someone have built an instrument without a mold like that?
Well, the mold was something coming from Italy in the end of the 17th century. And it is something coming to make... I think instrument in serie to have, I have a shape and they will come all the same measure. While actually making without a mold, it's actually easier and faster, maybe, because you just make the part of the instrument and glue them together.
I mean, like, I've built instruments myself without a mold, but nothing excuse me, nothing the size of even a violin. I mean, pochettes,
Yeah.
Pocket fiddles, dancing master pocket fiddles. They can be built without molds. I mean, I've done a lot of them without a mold. Although the ones I make now, I always use a mold. But it's interesting that you say it's easier, and
Well, I think
I guess it's just a different way of thinking.
Yes, no, I think when the maker is used to it, it's easier. Of course, for me, the first time I had to think a lot of what I had to do first and what I had to avoid doing because it was completely new for me. But I think it's a faster process.
Yeah.
Yes, faster, and it doesn't really require instruments to be all the same. So you are not really, I think they were not really worried that things were perfect, symmetrical. Of course, they were trying to do their best, but like corners, they were never perfectly symmetrical, or for example, the ribs always arrived right at the corner, while in an Italian instrument, you have an edge here coming out, and the ribs, it's nicely cut before, and everything is more even and symmetrical. So I think the mold came for aesthetic reason and to make things always with the same shape. While making without was just to be more free.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking of. Later.
Well, the interesting thing about the Wagner is that it is the only instrument that we are sure in the world that it has 5 strings and it is all original, with the original neck and original pegbogs and everything. And you can see how short is the neck compared to the instrument. It's a neck as short as a violin neck. So that's pretty funny and particular because it really resembles this image. So after Lubeck, the Wagner was made in Bostendorf, which was a place in Germany where there were a lot of violin makers, and a lot of instruments in museums actually come from Bostendorf. And from Bostendorf also comes the family of the Hunger. They have a tenor viola by Hunger made in the National Musical Instrument Museum in Vermilion, which has really the same shape of the Hoffmann, just smaller ribs. And Hunger was actually the name of the luthier that took Hoffmann's workshop when he retired. So after Lubeck, we went to Markneukirchen, which is the most probably famous place for violin making in Germany from 16th century up to today. I mean, their violin maker association, it's going to their 350th anniversary next year, which is a lot if you think of it. So in Markneukirchen they have a museum which is very interesting because they have all sorts of instruments from 16th century to today, both made by masterpieces, made by a single luthier, and made by factories, because like in all the villages where there were families of violin makers, they got specialized. So maybe in a family there was someone making the scrolls, someone making the tops, and so they evolved some of them evolved in factories of musical instruments. In there we found these 2 nice violoncellos da Spalla. So, as I said, Violoncello da Spalla I'm not sure I said it, I say it now. Violoncello da Spalla is the term that we use today for this instrument. And before it was normally called viola pomposa, which is anyway a term that was not used in Bach's time, but just a little after that. It came out in an article of a newspaper in, I think, 1760, so a bit after. So viola pomposa is how normally this kind of instruments are listed in museums catalog. And these two ones are made, one by Adler, this by Adler and this by Schmidt, which were two big firms of mass-produced instruments, active, active from...
Reinhold Schmidt.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that Reinhold Schmidt?
Yeah. He had also a facility in Cincinnati, Ohio. And he was active from 1900 up to 1960, the firm. And same, more or less the same for Adler. And they were offering this instrument. Here I have the copy of a catalog by Adler. And in the last page, they are offering a viola pomposa. This catalog is from 1940. So, what they told us is that in the 20th century...
That's interesting.
Yeah, from the very late 19th century on, they were offering this kind of instruments specially for Bach Renaissance, Bach Revival, and from early music revival. So they had a catalog for early music instruments, special catalog of early music instruments, in which they were offering a viola pomposa. And they were stating that their viola pomposa was made after the Hoffmann instrument in Leipzig. So we also know that the Hoffmann instruments were already perceived as the violoncello piccolo by Bach, and it was also called armcello. It's really written armcello here in the catalog. So, before I was thinking that it was more an instrument that survived in folk music and street music or in house music, but I had to rethink this, because really it was something that was always used to play Bach in Germany. Even because in Germany, Bach is very strictly connected to Lutheran religion, evangelist religion. So every 50 years they have the anniversary of Luther. And they have this wide interest for studies around Luther, and they take out again their Bach cantatas and their Bach instruments. And so they were offering again these Bach instruments. There was like a peak of production in the Luther anniversary years, which is also funny to think. And this one really interesting thing to understand. And these instruments are clearly made on the Hoffmann measures, and they both had precisely the same measures of the one that we do today.
Cool Instruments for Hep Cats is brought to you by Don Rickert Musical Instruments, designers and makers of bespoke stringed instruments. All music clips were either recorded in the making of the podcast and played by the guest or guests, who have granted permission to use the clips, or otherwise, used with permission or in accordance with fair use regulations. The music for the intro and outro sequences is performed by the group Attire on jaw harp and djembe and is used with written permission.